On November 27th of 2009, while home hunting due to a bye weekend for the Wisconsin Badger football team, Bradie Ewing harvested one of southwest Wisconsin's most impressive typical whitetail frame bucks ever shot at the time. Hear his story unfold during our second edition of Paradise Valley Outdoors Monster Buck Conversations, and make sure to hit that subscribe button below, and thanks for watching. So welcome to the second ever Paradise Valley Outdoors Monster Buck Conversations. We're here today with Bradie Ewing. Anyone locally probably gonna recognize him right away. Like I said before, I like to recognize him first as a Richland Center Hornet, and then I'll kind of let you go over where you've went with things from there. And we're here with his awesome deer he shot in 2009. Is that correct?
Yep.
And, so we'll let you kind of let everyone know your background here.
Yeah, you bet. So grew up here in Richland Center, and had the opportunity to grow up in this awesome community, and then played sports here. Had the chance to go to UW, get my education there. Ended up playing football, walking on, and being a part of some great teams, great program, met some awesome people. And then from there, had the chance to go on and play professionally for a few years. Quite a few injury riddled career, but it was a blast. Traveled the country and just experienced really living out a dream. So that was awesome. And this now life and family and everything kind of brought me back to the greater Madison, Richland Center area. So it's been awesome. Quite the last run here for the last 12, 13 years since I graduated in high school. So
yeah,
it's been fun.
Yeah. You graduated what year?
2008.
2008.
So 2008, and
So you were a freshman actually when you shot this, freshman in college. Is that right?
Yeah. Also, I graduated 2008, spring of 2008, and then played fall of 2008. So this was
sophomore year.
Yep.
Okay.
Second year.
Cool. So speaking of 2008, we got these horns in front of us, and Bradie's never got to see these till today.
Yep.
I've never been a part of shooting a 200-inch deer. I mean, I've got several in the 160s. 172 is probably my biggest, which, it is what it is. 200-inch deer are hard to come by, so.
Yeah, it takes more than just, being a good hunter, which you are.
You gotta have them.
You gotta have them. You gotta have, a place for them to live, and they gotta get old,
Yep.
So.
Yep. Genetics.
A lot
of stuff goes in. I mean, people don't realize what it takes, I don't think, to grow a 200-inch deer, just genetically getting them the food source, the nutrients they need and all that.
Yep.
But anyhow, yeah, I mean, like we did, the first one was with Mike Nelson.
Yep.
And I was fortunate to just be a part of that. I wasn't a part of the hunt or I didn't hunt the deer, didn't have anything to do with the deer, but Mike worked for me at the time and started bringing trail cam pictures of that buck in August, and I'm kind of watching this progress throughout the year, and then he calls me one Sunday night. We were both out hunting, and I get back to the truck and I look on my cell phone, there's a missed call from him. I'm like, he shot that deer. And so just to be a part of something like that, and not that I was a part of this deer, but getting back to these sheds here, 2008, the year before Bradie shot it, we had earn a buck, and late gun season, or maybe that was one of the years they extended it clear through into Christmas.
Yeah, I think there was an extension on it.
Yeah. So anyhow, I'm out in snow up to my knees, literally, on some property that I just kind of was invited to go hunt on. It wasn't something I hunted all the time. And I'm walking out through a cornfield, an alfalfa field, and I see something sticking up, and it looked like a corn, corn stalk that didn't get cut, but there was no corn there. So it kind of drew my attention. I start walking over, and lo and behold, I get over there, and here's this sitting in the snow. So I mean, I'm just in awe. And so yeah, I mean, it was a fun time. I think it was a month and a half later, my uncle found the match side, probably a half mile away. Actually, the night we were hunting, my buddy was with us, and he we don't know it for sure, but he came out that night and he told me I just had a buck with his right side missing. He goes, it's the biggest thing I've ever seen, which would make sense. And he's a pretty good hunter. He knows what 200-inch deer are, and
Sure.
he didn't say it was a 200-inch buck, but so we put 2 and 2 together, and I'm sure it was probably this deer because my uncle literally found that shed probably within 100 yards of where he seen that buck that night.
Crazy.
So yeah, Bradie hadn't got to see these till today, and you know, we've been sitting here comparing from a year from here to there. It's basically a little bit of tine length and
Yep.
a fairly good amount of mass. When you say in
I would
the,
say
in the
mass.
tines,
That's right. Yeah, there's obviously minor differences, but the mass is the biggest thing. So cool. We'll get into it, but I didn't have a ton of history with this deer, just given what I was doing playing football at the time. But see something like this, hear those stories, kind of makes you come full circle and just know that there was a lot more to this deer's life that he saw over his 7-8 year life to get to this point where he's here with us today. So
how old did they think he was?
taxiderm said 8.5.
Okay.
Is how old he was. I probably would have had a little bit more time on my hands, would have spent some more time getting him aged out or sending him in to figure it out. But taxidermist thought 8.5, so it's probably one of the older deer that he had ever mounted. So
Yep. Scored. I looked at the back here when I was hanging at 203 and a few eights.
so
Gross.
200 and so officially scored. There's been a few different scores on it. After the drying time or whatever, he's like 202.8, I believe, and then net would be 183 and 3/8, I believe, with the deductions.
And pretty much a typical frame. So I mean, to start getting in the 200s with a typical frame, that's just that's world-class type deer. I mean, I know when I found this shed, I took it home that night, and my dad's he loves scoring deer. I mean, he's official Boone and Crockett scorer now, and
is he?
He's scored bears and I mean everything. He's really into it. But we went back and scored this site out, and I think we were in the 90s, low 90s.
Yeah.
I'm going off memory. It's been what, 10, 11 years now.
Yep.
But we started kind of matching them up, going, well, if he's this and he's this with a 20-inch spread, he's a 200 and some inch typical, with some deductions. And if he puts on 15 inches of horn, I mean, you're talking world class.
Yeah,
world class
typical.
typical. So the cool part with this buck, he's kind of compact, curls in, got great mass at the bases. Just a beautiful deer.
Yeah, just the character. That's what I love. These little nubs that almost look like it's could form a little drop tine. He's got the little daggers, eye guards, and just the dark horns. And that's what I was surprised about seeing the sheds was you found that one pretty early.
Yep. Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, 2008, and then this one, I believe you said a couple months later.
I want to say early February. It was at least 4 to 6 weeks after I found that one.
So
my uncle hunted this farm for a long time where we found these, and he spent a lot of time looking for that. He was pretty wound up. He called me up and he said,
sure.
"On the other side." And I'm like, "Really? That far apart?" And then when like you said, he brought it in, and it didn't. I mean, there's not a chew mark on either one of these.
all perfect shape. And who knows when he dropped this one, but it seems like every shed I find has either got tines chewed off or they're bleached out from sitting a little bit. So
I don't know if you know it. I don't think I've even told you this, but so my uncle took these up to the shed antler contest up in the Dells that following year.
I didn't know that.
And he actually won first place with them.
Cool.
So that's pretty neat. So there's some pretty cool history with this deer.
I'd taken this guy down. This was years after I'd gotten him to one of the shows in Madison. I'm blanking on what it's called, but
Deer and Turkey Expo.
Deer and Turkey Expo, yeah, and he had taken first for gun.
Yep.
It was just cool to get him out, have people see him and appreciate the beauty of him, and I just feel fortunate to have had the chance, man.
Yeah.
Kind of stars aligned and timing aligned, and some people say I got a lucky horseshoes up my butt. So.
Yeah. I've been told that too, but then I don't know. When I was younger, you put the time in. I mean, I from the time I was a little guy, I remember just begging my dad, "Take me with you, take me with you." When I started going driving deer when I couldn't even carry a gun, and it's still to this day, hard for me to explain the passion that I get out of deer hunting. I mean, it hurts to not be able to go on an evening.
That's right.
And when I was younger and didn't have kids, I didn't miss too many evenings in the bow season. And I'll never forget, I tell people, and you probably went through this now, but my daughters are born. It's like the first year Alyssa's a baby. She was born in June. Amy goes back to work, so she worked at the hospital here in town. So every third weekend she had to work.
Yep.
It's got to be like November 5th, and she had to work, and I had to stay home. And it's just frosty out, and I'm sitting in my living room. We were out at Boaz at the time, and holding Alyssa. You know, I mean, God bless it. It's still amazing being a dad. I wouldn't trade for nothing, but watching bucks run the back of my field, I'm just, oh, I mean, it hurt.
For sure. No, we had a couple of our boys were born in the rut time, so you know, even after I got done playing and had more time to hunt, there was definitely either my wife was pregnant and I would be sitting out in the deer stand and having my phone on the ready, or you know, you're in the hospital feeling that. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, when you look back, it definitely hurts in the moment, but
it goes fast.
Get some perspective and goes fast. And same thing when I was playing. You know, you're down in Florida or Atlanta, your buddies are sending you pictures out opening weekend of gun season or out bow hunting, and definitely miss it, but just tried to keep that perspective of, you know, my time will come.
And what I was doing. I mean, everyone's kind of dreaming to be able to do what you did too.
That's right.
So.
The opportunity I had, so it's all good, and excited to get my kids into it and pass that on. So they're already enjoying setting up trail cameras and
that's cool.
Tree stands and just mess around with the little food plots we do. So
it's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
So getting back to your buck, why don't you kind of walk us through? You said you didn't have a lot of history. You were playing football. You had some time off that week.
Yeah. So it's, you know, like I said, I didn't have a lot of time. I had some historical stands that I had set up through, you know, high school, and had trail cameras out at that time. But, you know, freshman year of college, I don't even think I got a chance to hunt, just the way our schedule aligned and, you know, where our bye weekends were. And so that sophomore year, we had a fortunate bye weekend on Thanksgiving weekend, which was somewhat unheard of in the Big Ten, at least for Wisconsin historically. So stars were aligning where I thought I could get out a couple days, and Coach Bielema, before he released the team to the guys that were in Wisconsin, he allowed to go back to their family if they were close enough, and if not, they had a little celebration for the team. But I was, you know, an hour and a half away, so he made some joke about, you know, you Wisconsin guys don't go home and go tromping through the woods and hurt yourself, you know, hunting. I know a lot of you guys are hunters, but I couldn't help myself. Had a couple days off, so went out Thanksgiving morning, sitting a big Ridgefield stand I loved. It was beautiful, and I'm sitting in a big oak tree in a ladder stand, and you know, I had the ridge and the woods behind me, and shot a doe that first morning. And it was awesome. Put some meat in the freezer, and at that time,
your buck tag, right?
Got the buck tag, which with the CWD, that was one way they had worked to eliminate the hurt at that point a little bit. Is, you know, earn your buck tag, and it lasted for, I believe, for that year and the following year. So had the chance to do that, and got that doe all cleaned up, and figured we'd go back at it the next morning. I actually sat the same stand just because I love that stand, and pretty easy, accessible stand. I wasn't really thinking about the wind at that point, just wanted to be out there, and my dad and my brother were out that day too, and hadn't seen much, maybe one doe earlier in that morning, taking the same trail that doe the previous day went. And about 8:45, I think, I heard some grunting over the knoll of the hill straight ahead of my stand, probably 125, 150 yards away. Didn't think much of it. You know, they definitely probably were still rutting, but, you know, it's the middle of the gun season.
Sure.
And looking back at it, you know, nobody had hunted this land that I was hunting on for probably the previous couple of years, because my dad, he enjoys being out there, but I think he enjoys being out there to spend more time with me and my brother. And so I'm sure a lot of these deer had just kind of found a little sanctuary there where they weren't feeling much hunting pressure, at least. And so anyway, I heard some grunting over the knoll of the hill, and just grabbed one of those bleak cans and hit that a few times, thinking, what the heck, it's not going to hurt anything. At this point, almost 9 o'clock on, you know, second weekend of gun season, And in this stand, I typically scan in the field, just nice and slow, checking some of the edges, is where some of the deer go in and out, and scan back, and then look in the woods behind me, back on the ridge, and some nice thick woods, good bedding cover. And probably 5 or 10 minutes later, I'm looking behind me in the woods, and I slowly turn around to start scanning the field again, and I just see that rat coming up, kind of quartering towards me over the knoll of the ridge field. And didn't even really register the magnitude of the moment at that time. Just saw the sun gleaming off what would be that side of the rack, and just a huge body deer. And so slowly grabbed my 243 and pulled it up and buried the crosshairs, pulled the trigger, and he took off like you would expect, but he didn't look like he was hit that hard. And so ejected around and sent another one, and then another one, actually 3 shots, and he ended up going down in the field.
You seen him go down then?
I did.
Okay.
And so that was a huge relief, and still just didn't really know the magnitude of the moment. Was super excited to see what this buck was, because I didn't have much time to have trail cameras out and didn't be doing much scouting, so it just felt kind of lucky that way, and was just in the right place at the right time. And what gave him his time, and then got down and just saw the magnitude of specimen this deer was, and started calling my dad and just my brother, just super excited. They left their stands right away and came up to the Ridgefield and shared an awesome moment with them. And
those are moments you remember your whole life.
Yeah,
it's cool having your dad and your brother there. I mean, that's pretty special.
Yeah, let alone yourself, just be in the moment, but to share it with other people that's what I remember, really. And just given the type of deer he was, my dad said, "Well, let me go get the camera and we'll take some pictures." And really just soaked it up. But at the same time, I didn't have a ton of time too, because I think the next day we had to be back for some training back in Madison. And so it was just kind of a flurry of stuff. People were reaching out to me because they heard about it throughout that afternoon, and I think a few people stopped up actually at my parents' house and saw it. And
the funny thing is, speaking of that, I think I told you the story earlier, but we're coming back from a lease property we had on Thanksgiving. No, the Friday after Thanksgiving. That evening, we're driving into town from the south, not far from where this buck had been, and it just kind of clicked in my mind. I'm like, gosh, I said to my uncle, I said, whatever happened to that deer? We had the sheds. I mean, you think, well, if somebody shot it, you'd hear about it. It's getting late in the year again, and they hadn't heard anything. And then that night, my other uncle calls and says, "Bradie Ewing shot that." It was just ironic. It's,
the timing of it,
yeah.
and the connection.
I kind of let it go, and we're driving through there, and it popped in my mind. And then that night, I get the phone call. And, I said, "Well, that's cool." I said, "It's a very deserving person to get a deer like that." It's kind of cool. I said earlier, I remember selling you your first bow back at the archery shop when you came in, maybe 16?
Yeah, maybe a little earlier than that.
Middle
school, maybe early in high school or late middle school.
So who got you into bow hunting and doing all that? I guess
so my dad, I would just say hunting in general. He was never a bow hunter.
Yep.
But
I kind of remember that conversation, even though it was a long time ago.
We always gun hunted, and his family always did too. But similar, sound like you with, we'd sit for a while when young, and then we'd go out and do a little deer drive or whatever, walk around a little bit, my dad keep his feet warm. But I love that outdoors hunting, fishing. Still remember being up in we always like sitting in crotches of trees for gun season. And we had one awesome spot that my dad had sat for years growing up. So every year we'd notch the year into the tree.
That's cool.
And, just little memories like that. So we can still go up and see that tree today. But I remember, he tucked me in his coat when I was just a little guy, and I'd get freezing up there on opening morning or opening weekend. He'd pull his coat around me, and just memories like that pretty special looking back, and something you want to pass on to your kids or have them experience with their grandpa. So that's really how I got into it. Primarily deer hunting. Jerry Lynch played a huge role in getting me involved in the Learn to Turkey Hunt through the NWTF Learn to Hunt program, which is just phenomenal.
Yep.
So got into turkey hunting that way and got my dad into it, and that's been something we've continued to do together. And then bow hunting was again, Jerry Lynch, he took me out to the shop,
Yep.
helped me get set up, and loved being out there and shooting your guys' course with the elevated platforms and a bunch of 3D targets. I mean, that was almost as fun as hunting, honestly. It was just mastering the craft.
I'm addicted to almost shooting bow. I mean, I talked to a guy and one day and he's like, I'm addicted to the flight of the arrow, and I go, I've never thought of it that way, but I mean, I'll stand out here at night, and as I've gotten older, time gets harder to find, or you want to spend time with your kids, so it's tough, but I'll still find a half hour every night, or 3 nights a week just to come down right at dark and shoot. I could stand out here all day and shoot bow.
Sunset and watching the flight of the
deer
arrow
behind you, and like we talked earlier, we all take for granted how beautiful it is just to be in this part of the world and be able to enjoy these things. Yeah, I missed the archery shop a little, just doing the things like that with you, but I've kind of found another passion of mine, not to get off track here, but I really enjoyed at a young age watching, getting these young kids in. We used to do kind of a Jake's Day for the NWTF, bring them all. We give a few free bows away at the archery shop, cool. Let them all shoot some archery. We did some trap shooting and stuff like that, and then I miss that aspect probably more than anything. I miss the people, the new friends, of course. I have another business now that I've met a lot of great people through, but a lot of people go, well, why are you doing PVO? Why are you doing videos? And I said, well, 2 things really. I said, I don't shoot a lot of deer anymore. I just, I've let some nice bucks go, and it's nice. I enjoy videoing them and then bringing them back and watching them, and the main reason is the memories. I mean, like, you're gonna, and like we've talked, Brady's here today. We wanted to show his deer, but he'd like to start running his camera, or has already. But a
little bit, just cell phone, but I want to get more into it.
Yeah, so we'd like to get him to come on, maybe get a video on PVO and work together at it. We got a few guys that we've already got joined up this year. Just a good bunch of guys that are, just enjoying life and making the outdoors part of it. But not to get off track here, the kids. I mean, I got my youngest daughter's first deer ever on film. And to be able to watch, I mean, she watches it with me in here sometimes. She just kind of almost tears up. She's like, that's just so special. And I said, it is, it's pretty cool. But, now this year I've took a few other, since then, not just this year, but, I got a young man, his first deer ever this year on camera. I took him out on our farm, and his dad had reached out to me and said, would you take him? And he said we would, and it was his birthday, and just
how cool is that?
I tell you, when these deer come walking in with these kids, and you can watch them, and you got the camera going, and I am shaking.
Yeah.
If this thing walked through with a bow in my hand, I wouldn't be shaking as bad. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, you want them to have success. You want them to have a good experience, and that's cool. I can already see myself as a dad.
Yep.
Your perspective changes.
Yep.
And you don't even have to be a dad. I don't think to have that change, but it just, you want to obviously take care of the animals, grow awesome animals, but you want to see other people experience that passion, that joy that you found through the sport.
Yep.
That it's tough to put a price tag on.
It is.
And to have it documented through Paradise Valley Outdoors and just the camera systems that you have. You're never gonna lose that.
Yeah.
So back up the memory, those videos on memory chips or on a hard drive.
We got them on YouTube, so hopefully YouTube never crashes here. But even this year we went out on a bear hunt, and I self film all my hunts. I've never had a person film it, so it's kind of a challenge too for me. Yeah. I mean, I shot a bear out in Idaho here a month ago, and I self-filmed the whole thing. I got people going, how did you do that? And I go, well, there's a lot of work. It's work. So, I mean, anybody that, self-films, there's a lot of it on YouTube, and people sometimes go, oh, the footage wasn't that great. And I'm like, well,
let's think about what they're actually doing here.
And I would say whitetails and elk are probably going to be the 2 toughest animals to self-film, because they're constantly moving. A bear, you can put something out, or a bait, bring them in. Turkeys, you're calling them into the blind. You got time to get the camera swung that direction. Yep. Or you're hearing them. Elk are constant. Elk, deer. unless you can get on a food plot, but I mean in the rut, it's just going to be, I mean, you're going to have to use a Tacticam, which I got a couple of those, or a GoPro. You know, we got the big camera in the arm, and I'll try to swing it in the general direction. But yeah, you'll if you get into it, it's so rewarding to not just kill the deer and then to be able to go home. I mean, I literally run home and I throw stuff in the computer. I'm like, oh, I got it. You know,
check it out.
Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
was fortunate enough to take a nice buck with my bow last year, and while an awesome experience, I had not a ton of history with him, but a lot of trail cam photos, saw him a bunch before I was able to harvest him. If I would, if you could have had that on film, or just to bring it full circle to remember that moment, would be a little bit different. So I can imagine, while difficult, and all the preparation that goes into that, making sure your batteries are charged and you're minimizing movement, you're trying to get a camera angle. Man, for the stars align for them that to come together, I bet. Yeah. Just takes it to another level. It's already tough enough to get it done without that aspect. But.
Yep. So the cool part this year is we got, like I say, 2 other good friends of mine. Andy Meaden's been with me, met him. Mm-hmm. He's been with me since day one, and we've really committed this year to where we want to take and help video each other maybe and do some of that. But to get back to your deer, get things wrapped up here. What an awesome buck! I mean, just it's something I haven't actually got to see the deer. I'd always seen the sheds, and you kind of on the other end, but just what an awesome buck. I mean, it's just mass. It's got everything. Some splits, an extra tine growing up here.
Yeah. Feel fortunate. He was, like I said, not a lot of history. Didn't feel like I put in all this hard work. I was timing aligned, and I put stands up before, and it obviously put work in prior, but
well, it makes up for the one you were chasing this year.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I think we can let this out now. You had a 200-inch buck you were chasing this year. You didn't end up harvesting
last year.
Did, or this, 2 years ago, I guess. Wasn't it?
Yep. So chasing around 200. I think he ended up scoring like 214 or 215.
And I didn't even put 2 and 2 together until you started showing me pictures of it, and I'd never really. But wow, that was a deer. It's a big deer.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, how they get
totally different frame.
How they get to 200 plus inches in such a different way. I mean, that one, not as much mass, but I mean, the width and the height that he had, just phenomenal. And I never was able to lay my eyes on him physically while I was hunting, but man, the amount of trail camera, daylight pictures that we had. And one time I was sitting in a stand and, found out later he was about 125 yards behind me in the valley, and didn't get a chance to see him. He had passed through. So that's what makes it so fun, though, right? Mm-hmm. You're chasing him around, and you get all the intel with the, cool cell cams and trail cam stuff.
And now you do have your own property.
Yep. Had a chance to get our own property, which has always been a dream of mine, and became my wife's dream too through the process. Yep. But just excited to start a legacy with our kids. And
that's what's fun, out here. I told you what we have, and to me, I call it homegrown. I just keep telling myself I want a homegrown buck, and
that's right.
People are like, what do you mean? And I go, my ultimate hunting experience for a whitetail is to kill something like that, or even if it's a 180, 175, 180, something with a bow here at home on a food plot or a pond or something I put in, and just the management, the hours that I spend on my property here all year long, putting in food plots and tweaking stands, and I've got literally a water source on every kill plot I got now. I mean, it's just crazy. That's something I've documented on PVO several times. If you can get a water source, just a small water source, those deer, especially in the rut, they're running 100 yards away from it. They're going to come take a drink.
And if you got a nice food source there, chances are the does probably aren't bedded too far either. So
so just so much you can, you get out of this sport what you put into it, just like football. You didn't get where you went by not working hard.
Yep, you got to have some of the, what I say would be God-given talent, or in this case genetics, and some of those things. But then, as far as food plots and water sources and stand placement, doing your homework, You don't always need to, you know,
Yeah.
which we found out sometimes you can get the luck of the draw too, but it's only going to increase your chances and your odds. So yeah, I'm excited to continue to learn more about your property too
Yeah.
and see what you've
Well,
done.
it's cool you got yours. I'd be glad to come up and help you. I can show you some of my stuff here as we get going. But well, we won't hold people up too much longer. I just appreciate the time. I do have one question I want to ask
Yep.
you. So you got your own property now.
Yep.
You get a. I'm just gonna run a scenario here. I want to see what you have to say.
Okay. Didn't know this was coming.
No, that's fine. You get a 190-inch buck running through there. You've been hunting for 2 years, and you run an arrow through him, and you finally get down and grab onto those horns.
Yep.
What's that going to be like versus run out in that field at Camp Randall for the first time?
Oh man,
That's a tough one.
that is a tough one. So, man,
Well, let
there's-
me rephrase
there's
that,
no-
and then you answer. What was your best moment ever playing football? Was it running out in the Madison, or going out in the NFL atmosphere, or?
Honestly, it would be Wisconsin.
I
So,
kind of thought you'd say that.
you know, it's
There
funny
again,
though.
It's home. It's home.
It's home. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a Badger. I wanted to be there. I had the awesome opportunity to be there. But even you look back at the games, and you know,
were in
it's
some
easy
big
to
games.
it's easy to look at, like, you know, beating Ohio State when they were number one, or
Yep.
beating Michigan State at the Big Ten championship, or going to the Rose Bowls. But it's funny. You look back and you remember the little things, and it's more about the process. You know, like when you kill a buck here, or you have somebody come out and kill a deer here, you probably think of, okay, I put that food plot in there, and I put that water hole in there, and you know that's why that deer was coming that
Yep.
way, because of the work and the process that went into it. And it's just something stupid, but I think of, we all drove mopeds at Wisconsin, getting to and from class and to the facility. I remember, you know, winter conditioning is big. You finish the season, you get a couple weeks off, and then got an 8 to 10 week workout cycle where you're working out, you're running, you're doing agility, and usually it's in the morning, especially on like Wednesdays and Saturdays would be more conditioning days. So obviously weather's not good. You're in Wisconsin in the middle of the winter, and everyone still tries to drive their mopeds around. So I think it was my freshman year. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to go from Whitty, the dorm I was in, with a bunch of my teammates over to this facility, which isn't that far. It's probably half mile, maybe quarter to half a mile, but there's 6 inches of fresh snow on the ground. The plows hadn't been out yet. So to see all of us guys with our feet down on our mopeds, trying to drive our mopeds in 5 or 6 fresh inches of snow over to the stadium, just things like that,
Yeah.
like little memories like that you remember, the guys that were there, and you know, just putting in the time, putting in the
Yeah.
work, so that you can go out and enjoy a Saturday where you got 80,000 people screaming and yelling,
Yeah.
but yet you're just in it with your guys,
Yep.
in the trenches, and kind of all that just fades away for a couple hours, you know.
Sure. Well, and you'll find that as you start hunting on your own land. You know, I've been here now for 10 years, and I got little spots I walk around, and every little spot's got a little memory. You know, the
Yep.
spot right up here. Every time I walk out, I think of my daughter Alyssa. She had a heck of a time shooting her first turkey, and we call this Tom in with a bunch of Jakes, and they come in and she bing shoots, and the Jake flies up in the air and lands. Jack no one out. I think she shot 4 times in less than 15 yards, and she just finally she's little, starts crying. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm like, well, it's okay, you know. She had a heck of a time, but every time I walk out that ridge, that's a boom, first thing. So the memories, you know.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, and you're gonna. I'm excited for you. You're gonna enjoy that land as much as anything you've ever done.
It's already been fun, and it's not even been a year, and just excited to, like you said, make memories.
Yep.
Try to grow some good deer, some good turkeys, give them good habitat, good food, and just try to do it the right way and leave it better than when we bought it or when we got it.
Yeah.
So I feel fortunate, and
So getting back to my question, why don't we wait until you shoot one like that, and then we'll ask.
There we go.
How's that sound?
it's a different phase of life, though, right? So at that time, you know, when I was playing football, I wasn't hunting a lot,
Yeah.
so that was the pinnacle, and I have, like I said, awesome memories. So I'm looking forward to doing that, making that a reality.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button down below. We're hoping to get Bradie on here some more throughout the year, and maybe work a little together. And I'm looking forward to seeing what your land does for you, and get those kids going, and we just appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you
having
very
me.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Betcha.
Thanks for having me.